Lucid dreamers of Reddit, what's the coolest thing you've ever done while dreaming? I was talking to my mother in a dream. I tried to convince her that it was a dream, but she didn't believe me. So I opened a window, flew out of it and returned to the room. Then I said, "See, you can't do that in real life. Time to check your totem, Cobb." All in one dream. Punched a hole in an aquarium and made sure it didn't leak. Turned around and screwed my crush from school in my living room. Then started setting everything on fire with my mind. My real life was extremely dull. I lucid dream maybe only once or twice a year. But while I was in prison one night I became aware of my dream state. I was at a hobby store with my oldest daughter who was 9 at the time. As soon as I realized what was happening I hugged her for as long as I could. It was so vivid. I could smell the shampoo she used and told her I loved her and that I'd never leave her like this again. I woke up in tears. I experienced something kinda similar. My dad died 6 years ago, so when he appears in my dreams I become lucid. It feels so real, it's like I am being given a chance to spend time with him. We never talk, I always just hug him and weep. Brains are crazy. A couple of things. The go-to one is sex. When I realize I'm dreaming, I test something impossible to make sure it's a dream and then it's right to freaking. I was having a nightmare once and realized it. Made myself sprout Wolverine claws and then it turned into being in a real life X-Men scenario. That was fun. Flying. Freaking and fighting. And flying. I don't know if this counts, but when I was 18, now 27, my grandmother passed away. We were close and I was very upset when she died, but I never had a good cry over it. Well, one night a few years later, I dreamt I was 8 again. I felt like a kid. I never get to have fun when I lucid dream, because whenever I realize I'm dreaming I instantly wake up. Like, I'm having a ball, I meet Bob Saget, realize I'm dreaming and poof I wake up. It pisses me off. I wanted to hang with Bob Saget. You get too excited, you need to calm yourself. Don't run in a dream, ever. Try looking at your hands and studying the features of your hands, or just rub them together. Another thing is to try spinning or falling backwards. Also keep reminding yourself you're dreaming or you'll drift out of lucidity. I've flown before, in multiple dreams. I used to be able to wake up on command. Flying is honestly super cool. I landed on top of my house. However, the worst type of dream is a lucid nightmare. You know you're dreaming, but you're running from something. So you try to fly away only to realize that you can't fly, so you immediately think you're actually in danger. This happened to me a few times when I was younger. Also, since I was 13 at the time, I would often spawn girls I had crushes on and imagine they were in love with me. Lucid dreaming is weird. Yeah, you know you're dreaming, but your entire brain isn't there, so you don't often think of the same things you would when you're awake. Hunted every villain of my dreams to death. I used to have anxiety dreams for as long as I can remember. They stopped when I was around 14-15. The first time I got away, I was a small blue dragon being hunted by some village folk. They had torches and hay forks. I hid under a bush in exhaustion. First time that worked. My oldest dream was me being Bambi, trying to run away from a commercial aircraft that was trying to land on me. WTF. Boy, did it feel good when I flung that witch down her seemingly endless staircase made of random crap. I didn't let her die though. I wanted to see her crawl away from the ruin that was once a tower. Hugged my dog. She had passed away unexpectedly. She died the 1st of October this year, and I was coping pretty terribly. I fell asleep and became aware that I was dreaming, which I have never really felt before. I got out of bed in my dream and my beautiful paisley pug was there. I kneeled down and asked her, "How's heaven, pumpkin? I miss you so much." And I started hugging and cuddling her. She felt so real. I could touch her again. I could smell her. I was so happy that my baby was breathing once more. She then licked me and curled up on a shirt of mine that she died on in real life and stopped breathing. When she stopped breathing in my dream I couldn't feel her anymore. I tried grabbing her over and over to save her, but I kept getting pulled away, and then I woke up. That dream freaking tore my heart in so many pieces, but I would do it all over again just to feel her once more. I miss her so much. I know it might not be the coolest thing, but to me it meant the world. Holy crap, that hurt to read. I'd freaking bawl if that happened to me. After I started to not wake up once I realized that I was dreaming, the first things I did were the obvious things. Flew around and had sex with a lot of women I'd mildly crushed on. I attain lucidity like once a week or 10 days on an average. So after I'd gotten bored of freaking around, I tried to try a lot of different things if I could. One of my favorites is playing football as a player of my favorite team. One time I decided to teleport to another planet. It was pretty confusing and stupid, but really cool. Stupid cause it always seemed like a very sci-fi Spielberg-esque planet rather than the terrain we are used to seeing on Mars or the moon. I used to do quite a bit of acid in college but haven't since. I trip in my dreams sometimes and it's incredibly accurate and nostalgic. I love it. What else? Try to live in all my favorite sci-fi fantasy worlds, but I always struggle in these as they never come right for me. It never occurred to me that I could do drugs, existent and otherwise, in my dreams. I did Neo Matrix crap for hours and banged the hottest redhead I've ever seen at the end of it. The craziest part is I woke up several times and the lucid dream continued each time I went back to sleep. I've only had 2, but my first one was like 30 seconds long. This one went on for hours, maybe even days in the actual dream. At the very end the hot redhead told me she would see me again, then it was over. To answer your question more specifically, I guess the coolest thing I did was run all the way up a skyscraper then jump off it when I reached the top. Then you realize you're Mal from Inception and the skyscraper you just jumped off of was in real life, not in a dream. I was once a Jedi on a quest. Lightsabers, using the Force, doing badass triple backflips and crap. Plus I was with 2 real world friends who were Jedi with me. Yeah, that one was fun. Finally a question I can answer. So sophomore year of college and I'm taking calculus. This particular course had a heavy workload and I put off doing an assignment until the day it was due. There was one problem that I just couldn't figure out in looking at glow of the screen. Online my math lab homework made me more tired. I ended up falling asleep and in my slumber I was able to work through the problem and find a solution. Woke up, tried it IRL, and the solution was correct. Never thought lucid dreaming could be used as homework time. We were riding in a horse-drawn sleigh through falling snow, deep into the woods to find a Christmas tree to bring back for the holiday season. The dream was vivid, including shaking the snow from the boughs of our tree to observing cardinals perched high overhead, watching us. Okay, you just reminded me that there was a cardinal in my dream last night. Weird. I dreamed I went to an orangutan sanctuary in Borneo. There was this one old girl called Kimichi who had been hurt by loggers and was distrustful of humans. She had 2 young tangs too, but had also adopted an often clouded leopard called Subu. He was well cheeky and loved to play. I spent years getting to know them and play with them and taught Kimichi sign language. Eventually they got old and Kimichi passed one day when I was back home in my country, but I flew out straight away to make it just in time for Subu to die in my arms. I buried him next to Kimichi. I woke up crying. Been depressed ever since : 0. This is oddly specific. Got into a fight with a cheetah. I was in Brazil exploring the Amazon, and then suddenly I found myself being hunted by a cheetah, so after trying to outrun it and failing I decided I wanted to hunt him instead. It was epic. I woke up right as we clashed in the air. One of my best dreams ever. Slit the throats of the 911 hijackers on one of the planes like a Splinter Cell mission. Took control of the plane and landed it while on speaker with the president in the control tower of JFK with 0 flying experience. Something for me. Here we go. I had a year or so in my life when I'd experiment with lucid dreaming every time I slept. I had my ways of arranging it, guaranteeing it to happen whenever I fell asleep. I've done just about everything. but the best things have been in combination with sleep paralysis. I slept with my head out towards the room instead of towards a wall. I woke up by something stroking my hair slowly, and as I opened my eyes I see a man without a face standing above me, leaning over my head with one of his hands on my shoulder. In panic I gripped both of his wrists and held firmly. It was like filling your hands with sand and squeezing hard. The sand slowly poured between my fingers and out of my hands, only to regather again. He then turned around and walked out of my apartment. I was stuck in sleep paralysis for another hour or so. Wild guess, but I think of it as if I met Mr. Sandman, who fricked up on putting me to sleep. Another time I woke up with a family of 3 standing around me in 1700s clothing. One thing led to another and a while later I had came, both physically and mentally. Ghost foursomes are legit. What's worse is lying still in sleep paralysis covered in my own semen. So there's that. If anyone want to ask something I'll try to respond. I used to be pretty into this a few years back, would try most nights and have around 1 full control success a month. It was mostly sex and superhero fantasy stuff. I had gotten into zombie movies and decided to do a post-apocalypse thing. Made sure I would be OP. A fleet of helicopters, guns, and tanks and fighter jets, with infinite gas, all the food I needed. A dope base with all friends, family, some cute girls act. The dream ended up having time dilated pretty hard. Felt like 2 years by the end of it all. Kinda got out of control over time and started losing ground and people to the zombies. Had to bury my own brother out in an urban wasteland and couldn't even finish the funeral. This was about a year and a half in. It was super traumatizing. I tried to force myself awake a few times and I couldn't do it. I finally got killed organically in the dream and woke up. Spent a lot of time contemplating suicide in there. Called my brother openly sobbing. Took me a couple weeks to shake off the years of my life that didn't exist and were terrible. I don't really try to lucid dream anymore, and when I do I keep it tame like flying and fricking again. Sorry for crappy format act. Mobile you're no frickin' heck. One of my favorites was befriending and riding a Jurassic Park sized velociraptor around my hometown. There were 2 of them and they talked like old British gentlemen. It was hilarious and fun. Lucid dreaming me is the most impulsive piece of crap ever, and typically with my dreaming the first thing that I think of happens. If I try to fly, there's the immediate thought of but what if I didn't, so I won't. I kind of have to not be thinking to fly, which I have done, so it's awesome. Lucid me has also turned nightmares into regular dreams by making them sexy. Haha, this monster isn't scary if I'm trying to frick it. I tried to sleep with the Grim Reaper once. One time I was having a dream, realized I was dreaming and became lucid, then decided the dream seemed fairly interesting so far and decided to just go along with it. Most of the dreams I remember all involve water, usually going underneath it. It's usually very calming, even though in reality being underwater scares me. Not exactly dreaming per se, but often, when I'm drifting off to sleep I'm suddenly able to remember countless dreams I've had over the years. I can literally flip through them like a card catalog. That is so cool. Flying, diving and breathing underwater, riding an invisible motorcycle and sucking my own dong. One day I'm gonna do them all at the same time. My first intentional lucid dream, I did the thing where you plug your nose and sniff to see if you are dreaming. I realized I was. Then about a gallon of snot came out of my nose onto the floor and I woke up. Pretty cool. I once sang with 4 voices at the same time, while music welled up from the small volcanic island I stood on. It was beautiful. Sometimes, the short sleep before an early shift gives me lucid dreams, and this was the best one. I enjoy the ability to string together several lucid dreams and daydreams over the course of weeks and even months. I've fought wars and built societies from scratch. I've traveled through space and time. I've been the hunter and the hunted. I've risen and fallen. I've lived 1,000 lifetimes in mere moments due to my overactive imagination, which, even in unconsciousness, refuses to decelerate. That sounds like the best goddamn movie series ever. I used to lucid dream all the time when I was around 10, but slowly lost the ability. I haven't lost it completely, but it seems I'm not as good as I used to be. My last time lucid dreaming I simply morphed the environment around as a test but woke up soon after. Weirdly enough I woke up from that dream straight into a non-lucid dream. One last weird fact is because I used to lucid dream all the time and use it to fly. Flight has been ingrained into my dreams and I fly even when I am not aware I'm dreaming. Forcing myself to wake up after a nightmare. That nightmare was very vivid for the first few hours, but I forgot about it over time. What I can recall was that it involved me being publicly humiliated, but not much else. Yes, or forcing yourself to wake up because you know something bad is going to happen in the dream. While it maybe wasn't the coolest, it was the one where I felt kinda accomplished afterwards. See, in my first lucid dreams I always made the reality check by hovering flying in midair, but I could only use windows to leave a room. Walls were just kinda too sturdy in my imagination. So I tried breaking the walls for 5-6 dreams. Not really breaking, but shifting through them. Whilst they were too solid at the beginning, they felt like pudding after 2-3 dreams, and now I can proudly walk through walls in my dreams. I miss lucid dreaming. SSRIs immediately stopped it from happening. Although they stopped sleep paralysis from happening too, so that's good. Weird how the brain works. But to answer your question, turning into the Phoenix from X-Men, flying around and burning bad guys to ash, oh and I suck many a dong. One time, I was about to die trapped in a dry riverbed and a dam was about to collapse. I died. Then I decided to get reborn with superpowers and I flew around the city. It was kind of like an old photograph setting where the photo lost a bit of color and looks strange. It was fun though. One thing is that sometimes it is hard to control my flight when turning. It's pretty cool but rarely do you get as cool of a dream as that. It isn't easy to realize that you are dreaming in the middle of a dream and control it. The worst part is when I am having fun and I accidentally kill myself and wake up. Dream flying is a very cool experience, but it's tricky, even while lucid. Through trial and error, I've learned that my ability to maneuver is inversely proportional to my altitude. That is, if I'm hovering a few feet off the ground, I have complete control over my speed and bank turns. The higher up I go, the more likely I am to start flying off in random directions and go faster slower than intended. I'm not precisely sure why this is, but my best guess is that I have no practical experience operating with that kind of 3-dimensional mobility. Also, when I'm lucid, I can almost always conjure up a lightsaber on command. Fun times, D. The only time I've been able to lucid dream is when I called my boyfriend in my dream and he was being really mean and not himself at all. It made me realize I was dreaming and for some reason my dream had this weird background noise of TV static after I realized I was dreaming. Then this man in a suit showed up and made me get into his car and drove me to the middle of nowhere and then I woke up. It was like I wasn't allowed to still be in my dream because I knew I was dreaming lol. Once I've had a lucid dream. It started out normal but turned into a nightmare. Myself and my family were being chased through a derelict mansion by a serial killer. As it was nearing us getting caught we went outside and there were massive pens full of rotting bodies. At this point I suddenly realized it could not possibly be real. It was in a city. Someone would have noticed the stench. I should smell it but I didn't. So I took control of the dream as much as I could. It being my first time and all, I gave myself Hulk-like strength and pounded the crap out of the serial killer and then went about fixing up the mansion. One time after realizing I was dreaming, I went up to a dream character and told them I was dreaming and they weren't real. She got a confused, blank look to her eyes, then my whole dream vision flashed black, like someone turned the light off and back on, and she disappeared. Did this to a few other characters to the same result. I love camping but bugs, especially spiders, scare me. I was camping one night in my tiny tent and had a realistic dream where I woke up with moths, spiders, centipedes, beetles, etc. just everywhere all inside my tent and covering my sleeping bag. I couldn't breathe and panicked initially but then realized I was dreaming. Instead of waking myself up I covered up in my sleeping bag and faced my fear by calming myself and laying there in the bug infested tent. I was so proud of myself in the morning. The coolest sounding thing is also the most common. I stop, slow or rewind time. Basically shot goes down, I frantically look for a way out, and if I can't find one, well, sometimes the only way out is back. It may be because I start wondering where did it all go wrong or what could I have done differently to stop this. As I think about the past, time rewinds. I get a second try. My worst nightmares as a child involved getting stuck in time loops, where the world ends and everybody dies no matter what I do, over and over again. I have more control over it now, fortunately. Found Doctor Strange. I lucid dream often enough. Flying is really fun as someone mentioned, but I find that in mine, I need to keep a low profile to prevent myself from waking up too early, meaning don't do a bunch of crazy crap if I want to keep it going. I've spent the equivalent of an hour or two. Time still works kind of strangely in lucid dreams, just wandering around a city, knowing none of it was real at all. Some of it was based off of places I've been, and others completely new. That experience was pretty damn cool, at least to me. I've consciously fallen asleep once. I was completely aware from laying down to entering a dream. I was thinking of music while trying to fall asleep. Then gradually the music began to change until I realized I hadn't heard it before. I opened my eyes into a dream. I was in a house similar to my own. A few people were talking to each other. The new music was coming from them. I didn't know any of them, but it was a dream so they weren't strangers. I walked around with my arms out in front of me because I was afraid I might be sleepwalking. Didn't want to bump into anything. Made my way outside and there was just miles of farmland in every direction. And that was it. My phone rang and I woke up. My friend wanted to hang out. I was kind of pissed at him for waking me up, but it wasn't his fault. That's the only time I've ever done it. I had to delay my vacation. Not a cool thing, but my most recent lucid dream. In the dream I was at the airport getting ready to get on a plane for Jamaica, which hasn't happened yet, and realized that I only had a few things in my carry-on and almost nothing in my checked bag. I didn't have any of my pills, and only enough clothes for a couple of days, and no beach wear, etc. I realized that I was going to have to go back home and get the rest of my stuff, and would have to miss my flight and rebook. As I turned around and was getting ready to leave the airport, I realized that my trip to Jamaica isn't scheduled until January. I realized at that point that it was a dream and that I probably should just wake up now. As I was walking to my car I wondered to myself how I could wake myself up, and then I woke up. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.